And there we go. Sorry, everybody online. I hope you can hear me now. I hope you haven't logged off yet. Of course. Okay. Well, my mom's still online, so there's that. We got June and Heather. They might still be here. So June and Heather, if you're still online, say something. I've got the comments up, and we're good to go. Okay. So you missed everything, so we're good. Just giving the rundown of what we're getting into. So we covered the 5 bowls of wrath before, and that we looked at kind of a description of just God's judgment, God's wrath that is poured out onto the world, onto sinners. And so that's kind of a general has been happening, is happening, will happen kind of thing. So now moving into the 6th bowl. Oh, and please, and for everybody in line, sorry, you're missing mini bunt cakes in the back here. Courtesy of Nothing Bunt Cakes in Okemos. They have no idea they're supporting us right now, but apparently they are. Lots of delicious flavors, and they're really cute little ones. So you got to at least take one home. All right.
Probably really glad somebody figured out how to get to their place.
Oh well, yeah, yeah, that whole place is a mess right now with construction. All right. Oh, Jacob's online too. Okay, good. Everybody's back online. All right. So, and I mentioned this to the people here. I don't have my videographer Christine with me, so I am running it by myself, and it should work. But if it doesn't, we'll see. So we are in Revelation 16, verses 12 through 16. Hold on. See, something always goes wrong. Wow. See, before it was really hard to get anybody to comment online, like nobody would say anything, and now I'm getting, hey, Kenda, make sure Pastor brings 3 of those cakes home. Lovely. All right. Come on. It was working. Oh, no, I swear. So help me. I was testing this out completely earlier, and it was working just fine. Oh, there we go. Okay. It might start dancing around. We'll see. Thank you all for bearing with me. This is what happens when I don't have my team. All right, verses 12 through 16. The 6th angel poured out his bowl on the great river Euphrates, and its water was dried up to prepare the way for the kings from the east. And I saw coming out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet, 3 unclean spirits like frogs. For they are demonic spirits performing signs who go abroad to the kings of the whole world to assemble them for battle on the great day of God the Almighty. Behold, I am coming like a thief. Blessed is the one who stays awake, keeping his garments on, that he may not go about naked and be seen exposed. And they assembled them at the place that in Hebrew is called, dun dun dun, Armageddon. All right, now we're getting into the good stuff. Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah. I got to get the frog. So we got some frogs. Let's see. Web feet. Okay, and then web feet. There you go. Wow. Frog, and I'm not going to draw 3 of them. So, oh, I guess they have a nose, right? Or little nose holes. Frog. I've been practicing. All right, so again, we got a couple ways you can go with this. So this is talking about this armies preparing for battle, great cataclysmic battle. So there's a scene where armies are coming together, and this is they're getting for battle for the great day of God, the Almighty. So this has these shades of, okay, this is the last day. So everything, and things are going to get worse and worse and worse. And then on the last day, before Jesus returns, there's going to be this huge battle, like real battle going on. All right. And the day of God, the Almighty, typically that is language is used to talk about the last day. All right, and there's a place called Armageddon. Ooh, okay. So this is where we get the word Armageddon. I mean, kind of redundant, but this is where it comes from. So when you think about, like, when anybody says like Armageddon, they think, a world or world-ending battle. Well, this is where they get it from. This is where it comes from. Or any kind of great cataclysmic event. I like how they're talking about cake still on the comments. That's great. Our goodies have become quite the thing on Wednesday nights. All right, so that this approach is taking things quite literally. Battle, last day, all this stuff. But there's some problems if you take this literally. First of all, there are a few very symbolic elements here, because if you're going to take this literally, well, then you really need a dragon to appear and its mouth to, and then these beasts. You're definitely going to need evil frogs. So we're going to give them horns and make them angry frogs. Give them teeth. So you're going to need devil frogs, which are these unclean spirits like frogs. They're performing signs, so they're like wizards too. So they're performing signs. So they're magic. Okay. So you need that. Which do you take literally? You gotta... yeah, certainly the frogs are the only literal parts of this. And Armageddon. And we have a problem with this too.
Is that the only place in the Bible there is?
Armageddon? Yes. Yes. Yeah. And it's very specific too. But it's also the problem with taking this literally is because this word is a compound word. It actually comes from Har Megiddo. Okay? Megiddo is an actual place. It's a little town. Okay? Har means mountain. So Armageddon doesn't literally mean world-ending battle. It means the mountain of Megiddo. So the mountain of this town, this ancient city. Problem with that. Megiddo is a plain. I think there's some hills, but nothing that you would consider a mountain. It's flat. So the whole concept of Armageddon kind of flies out the window there in terms of what it's actually talking about, because there is no mountain of Megiddo. Megiddo was actually, it was a useful place for staging battles. There was a lot of good resources there and room, but because there was a lot of open space, no mountain. So, would we take this literally? Probably not. What happens when we take it symbolically? Well, now, I'm sorry, buddy, I just erased your Jesus lamb. Didn't mean to do that. We'll keep devil frog, though. All right. So, Euphrates. The Euphrates River. All right. So what does it say? The Euphrates water will be dried up. Well, we certainly have plenty of examples from Scripture of waters being dried up. Certainly the Red Sea being dried up, and it's more of a deliverance motif there. Jordan River being dried up so that the people of Israel can cross over to the Promised Land. So instead of really leading into a theme of, oh no, this great battle is coming. It actually starts up with, hey, your deliverance is coming. Which, if we think of Revelation as a book of comfort, it kind of makes sense. All right. Also, the Euphrates kind of recalls, or is a kind of a throwback to things like the Babylonian exile, because the invading forces would come from the east and would have to cross over this river. So, certainly then you've got also the themes of salvation, deliverance, and also, calling back to when the people of God were afflicted, were invaded by the enemy. But again, God is going to preserve them. The dragon, beast, and false prophet. False prophet is just kind of another name for the second beast. Well, here we have the unholy trinity, the representation of all of Satan's forces. So we just have, so we start with echoes of God's deliverance in the face of Satan and everything. Okay. And how does Satan afflict? He sends out unclean spirits to deceive, to do wonders and signs so that people would be deceived into following the devil frogs and doing all that. And then we have this, so now we're talking about Armageddon. Or Armageddon. So this place, it doesn't have a mountain, so it's very symbolic. Well, he's talking about, now there's a place, then all of this is going to culminate. So God's deliverance is going to meet Satan and all of his power and all of the enemies of God are going to meet at a place that is ideal, the perfect place for this battle to take place, for this showdown to happen. Okay? And it's going to happen on the great day of the Lord. Okay, well, great day of the Lord could be the last day, right? Last day. What would be another day that you could say was a great day of the Lord? Crucifixion, the cross, which would also be the perfect place, right? For Satan's attacks and God's deliverance to meet head on. So, maybe, just maybe, what we're talking about here is not so much like, get ready for the last day. This is going on. There's going to be nuclear bombs going off and all this stuff. But maybe he's saying, and you know what? This all happens at the cross. And maybe it has echo or shades of, just as we go on from the cross, there are battles that are always being fought. Satan is throwing everything he can. But where do we find the victory? The cross. Now, if you are trying to comfort people who are being persecuted, and you've got Jesus' return, which is going to happen, and it's going to be great, right? And return. So it's going to happen. He's going to fulfill all things. So that is the day. You can point ahead and say Jesus will return, and everything is going to be great, okay? But here you are, okay? So your comfort, yes, it's assured, it's solid. But you're not necessarily going to be alive when that happens. And you're going to have to go through all of this stuff. And you only have that. Or maybe, is it more comforting or adds to it to say, you know what? Christ has already won this victory. The battle has already been fought. God's wrath is being poured out, right? These bowls of wrath. Well, where is God's wrath really poured out for our sin? On the cross. So we see all this kind of pointing to this. So when John's words are coming to the people, they're saying like, yes, this is your hope for the future. It's going to happen. And this is your hope that connects you to this that you actually have right now. So this is our favorite now and not yet. We talk about this a lot. Let's see. There's a comment here from Jacob. The Euphrates was also mentioned in Genesis 2 as a location marker for Eden, so an association with paradise, perhaps. Yeah, sure. I mean, that would definitely go with that theme. So yeah, so the Euphrates connection, there's a lot of, and that's why we take this symbolically. There's so many connections that you can make here. And certainly Eden would be right along in there. So, and I often, whenever I talk about the now and the not yet, I always call this a Lutheran thing. It's not. This is a biblical thing. Lutherans just kind of hammer it a lot. We like it a lot, and so we mention it a lot. It's found all over the Scripture. In fact, well, if you really want to be a pious Lutheran, if you want to be the kind of Lutheran that nobody invites back to parties, you would say that there's nothing actually Lutheran. There's no such thing as Lutheran. There's no Lutheran understanding of anything, because Lutherans only have a biblical understanding. So we are Christian, we are evangelical, we are Catholic, we are biblical, in our evangelical in our understanding. So, this can't be a Lutheran thing because there's no such thing. It's like, yeah, okay, that's true, but again, you won't get invited back to parties. So people don't like that because you're just like, oh, Lutheran's better than anything. Think that. Don't say it, okay? Think it, don't say it. Oh, and I see all of our Lutheran or non-Lutheran viewers just logged off. All right, so any questions about that? I mean, I mentioned this at the very beginning of the series. I'm going to take the fun out of a lot of this stuff. And this really does take the fun out of a lot of it, because we don't get Armageddon. We don't get like this, ooh, wow, the forces and the kings from the east, and ooh, okay, so this is an east versus west thing, and oh, America, and woo. We don't get that. When you actually just kind of see what's going on here, it's very much like, okay, let's remember Book of Comfort for people. Say, look, Satan will attack you. It's going to look like he's winning. He's going to look like he's got incredible, overwhelming power. But the victory's already yours. You're baptized into it. Hold on to this, because this connects you to that, and you will be here that day. So hang in there, buddy. It's the little cat hanging off of a branch poster. Hang in there. That's what it is. It's not, rah, death and destruction and fire and rah. It's like, Jesus is one. I mean, not that that's boring or anything, but not dramatic.
Is keeping his garments on, is that like in Ephesians 6 where it talks about the full armor of God?
Certainly could be, yes. You could have, you can definitely point to, if you didn't hear, it was in verse 15 where it says, blessed is the one who stays awake, keeping his garments on, that he might not go about naked and be seen exposed. To the garments of faith that we wear, the breastplate of righteousness and all that good stuff. It can certainly point to that, especially in that context, so we don't go about naked and seen exposed, because that does protect us. I mean, that is dressing us up. It could also be, go back to the Exodus, Passover, where it says, wear with your belt tucked in, ready to go. Like, be dressed and ready. So hearkening back to God's deliverance. So, I mean, there's a lot of connections you can make with it.
Him in the garden.
What's that?
God clothed them after they fell.
Yeah. Oh gosh. See, now that's just, why did you have to say that? Because now we're going to go off on a tangent. But it's a good tangent. Hold on. Jacob says, as we confess in the Nicene Creed, the resurrection of the dead and the life of the world to come. Yes, correct. All that. Good. So, pointing back to the Garden of Eden where God clothed Adam and Eve. The fascinating thing about that is what did he clothe them in? Animal skins. What does that mean? Death. He killed some animals, right? But he sacrificed some animals to cover over the nakedness, the sinfulness of Adam and Eve. So right from the very beginning, we see God putting in this place, just weaving in the very foundation of life, that once we fall into sin, he is going to there's going to be a necessary sacrifice, a blood that is sacrificed in order to cover over our sinfulness. Which sets forth, the whole sacrificial system of the Old Testament, but obviously pointing right ahead to Jesus. I love that because it's such a minor little detail you read it in Sunday school and you just gloss right over it. He clothed them. It's like, oh, God provides for us. See, that's great. It's like, oh, no. He does, but there's so much bigger than that. He provides salvation, and he sheds blood in order for that to take place. You bring something up like that, and we're going to go way off, and it's awesome. Same thing. God is always clothing us. Good Lord, anywhere where Paul talks about the robes of righteousness, in Revelation, talking about they put on their white robes, they're washed clean. So the image of always being clothed and ready or prepared or protected or saved is heavy into all this stuff.
So in this particular instance,
yes,
it's like saying, blessed is the one who stays awake and keeps the faith.
Oh, yeah. Which would be exactly who they're talking to. Yeah, because the whole message is don't look at the devil frog and be afraid. Don't freak out by this. Hold fast. Be dressed and ready. Be ready and be dressed. Clothe yourself in this, and you're good. Oh, absolutely. Yes.
So
this is good stuff.
to the story of the bridegroom coming and nobody's ready, right?
Oh, right, yeah.
Nobody's ready and they're all dressed and ready to go in. So
Yep.
This references being ready for Jesus' return.
Yes.
So that we're dressed and ready for that.
Dressed and ready. Yep.
It kind of seems initially like this business with the garments is just sort of something out through the weeds. It doesn't really
Well, and see, the thing is,
embellishment.
that's a good point, that this garment thing is verse 15, which is, I think in most it's kind of bracketed off by parentheses. If we're talking about like this great cataclysmic battle, then this is like, what? Yeah, it really then comes out of left field. It's like, okay, sure. It's like, here's this army. Make sure you're dressed. Wear clean underwear.
It should be in bold because that's the important.
Right. Right, it should be. Yeah, that is the main thing. But no, we're looking at all this stuff and like, oh no. But it's like, no. Focus. This is the important part. And honestly, I think that that's kind of part of the vibe of Revelation, is that it is showing this dramatic, just like all. The picture we get is just like, oh my goodness, and then there's all this fantastic stuff, but the core message is so very simple. And it just kind of, it really kind of draws a contrast. Like, you know what? Yes, the devil wants you to see, like, oh my gosh, this is so complicated and crazy, and oh, you're not going to know what to do. But the reality is, like, it's so simple. I was going to say so stupidly simple, but it's just so basic in a way that
Profoundly simple.
Yeah. Keep it simple, stupid, right? Profoundly simple, yeah. Yeah. And we just have a tendency to want to make this stuff so difficult. I don't know why. Maybe it makes us feel better because if we figure it out, it's like, ooh. But, yeah, write a book and make money, yeah.
It's almost kind of like we're expecting some sort of magical thing to happen at the end that isn't already happening.
Yeah.
So why is there so much sensationalism about that? It's
Here,
like
let's-
God has provided us somehow, right? So it's like we have to look for something at the end that might be
Oh.
really sort of totally fantastic.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's kind of, there are all these things going on, right? And it's, well, okay, but it's really the same old thing.
Right.
Satan's always been here. And he'll always be here
For
at the end.
For that, I would point. Scripture actually explains it very simply. I just thought about this. There's nothing new under the sun. I mean, right there. What do we think? Oh, this is unprecedented. We live in unprecedented times, right? We live in precedented times.
The older you get, the more you realize that there's really nothing new.
No. And it's like, if you ever say something like, we live in unprecedented times, you're clearly not a student of history. And it's just like, oh my gosh. Yeah. So it's...
Or that people say, well, it's never been like this. This is totally, we got to change our whole way of thinking because things are all different now.
It's not.
It's like, what?
I know.
It all sells. It makes
It all
money. It's
Oh, are you suggesting there's a profit motive in this? That's so cynical. I can't believe you would go there.
You take advantage of it, right?
But yes, no, it is quite profitable. Oh my gosh. I mean, people, I mean, when you have like a Revelation study, I mean, you could sell tickets if you're laying out like this whole timeline and this is what to look for and it's sensational. No one's paying me a dime to be like, it's just Jesus died for you, so hey, you're good. People will be like, I paid for that? No, I want my money back. We wanted devil frogs. We wanted to hear this stuff, not Jesus Christ. We know that. Give us something new. And it's like, that's all I got. Sorry. Here's see, I don't have Christina's the one who she waves her hand when there's comments. It says, well, the beauty hidden in Genesis 3 is God said, don't sin or you will die. In verse 15, he says, I will die in your place. Then a few verses later, he demonstrates that by spilling the first blood. Yes, recorded in the Bible. Absolutely. Jacob is on point with his Genesis commentary. Very good, Jacob. Yes, absolutely. All right. Are we good with that? Okay. We're going to keep devil frog because...
It's interesting about the frogs, though. Could be a lizard or a turtle.
Nope, frog. Couldn't be a lizard, nope.
It doesn't have to be a problem.
Well, frogs, you could point to like the plague in Egypt,
Nothing wrong
although
with
that was
frog.
God's thing, but I like evil devil magic frog.
You gotta wonder if John was actually having this vision or if he was actually, seeing the picture in his mind.
Oh, he saw this. I mean, how else would you describe it? This is what he saw, clearly. All right.
Very cool.
Okay, so next up, oh, come on. Well, this is supposed to. There we go. Okay. So now we got verses 17 through 21. The seventh bowl. The seventh angel poured out his bowl into the air, and a loud voice came out of the temple from the throne saying, "It is done!" And there were flashes of lightning, rumblings, peals of thunder, and a great earthquake, such as there had never been since man was on the earth. So great was that earthquake. The great city was split into 3 parts, and the cities of the nations fell. And God remembered Babylon the Great to make her drain. Is this right? Yeah, to make her drain the cup of the wine of the fury of his wrath. And every island fled away, and no mountains were to be found. And great hailstones, about 100 pounds each, fell from heaven on people. So and they cursed God for the plague of the hail, because the plague was so severe. Ooh. All right.
Big hail.
So again, we could take this literally, in which we would expect everything to play out. So okay, then when the wrath is done, when we're at the end, how will we know? Well, okay. Scripturally speaking, what Jesus says, how will we know when the end has come? He comes back, right? Yeah. He comes back with the voice of an archangel. There's like, there's trumpets. It's like, Jesus. And he's here. Well, this would seem to indicate there's something different going on. That there's earthquakes and peals of thunder and all this. Problem, again, with the literal view is who shows up? Babylon. The great city, Babylon, split into 3 parts. Cities of the nations fell. So all of a sudden, Babylon is rearing its head, which there is no Babylon. So, at least not anymore. So a little problematic. But all of this, from my perspective, is keyed off of the end of verse 17. So the 7th angel poured out his bowl into the air, and a loud voice came out of the temple saying, what?
It is done.
It is done. Where have we heard this before?
On the cross.
Oh my gosh, we just keep coming back to the cross over and over and over again. It's almost like this is the main theme, right? Yeah. And so, all right, what do we see? Then, again, all of God's wrath being poured out on sin, truly defeated for us on the cross. Now, throughout all time that's going on right now, everybody's afflicted, right? And people are feeling the pain. But we look at this and say, nope, it is done. It is done. It is done. We go back to the cross. And so then this all kind of makes sense. So, earthquake, flashes of lightning, rumblings. Well, there actually was. The earth did actually shake on that day. There was actually a storm and thunder and lightning. Seems to connect here. The city is being split apart. We're just talking about the destruction of the enemies of God. Again, Babylon, the great city. So the enemies of God being defeated. Every island fled away. No mountains were to be found. I mean, it's like, okay. Now, this could be looking ahead to the new creation, maybe. But it's just kind of like, okay, and everything is laid up. Great hailstones, about 100 pounds each. I love this. So now we get people flattened by hailstones. Who knew? Oh, I forgot to clear the screen. Thank you. Don't worry, you didn't miss anything. Just little guy being crushed by a hailstone. So I mean, what does this stand for? Well, again, you could say, well, maybe this is symbolically pointing to the end. So the people, will be crushed by the weight of their sin. I mean, you can go, since we're talking symbolically, we can go a lot of places with this. But as long as it always kind of comes back to, we're talking about what happens at the cross. So what happens at the cross for the believer is we hold to this and we're like, this is our salvation. For everybody else, I mean, the wrath of God just falls down on them, flattens everything around them, crushes them under the weight of it. And yeah, how do they curse God if they're? If 100-pound, well.
In the Greek, does it really give a weight
Yeah.
measure?
Yeah. Well, it's not pound, but I mean it equates to that.
It's kind of specific.
Actually, if it was pound, that would be really
Say
freaky.
Large hailstones that said 100-pound hailstones. It's quite specific.
Well, I was about to say if a 100-pound hailstone fell on you, although I guess if it fell and so terminal velocity, that would probably kill you, I assume, yeah. So I'm thinking like if you threw one of my kids at me, I'd be like, it would hurt, but. Yeah, that's one hell of a storm. So that they're cursing God. Well, if they're dead, how can they be cursing God? So these are symbolic hailstones. Symbolic hailstones.
In the Greek, I was thinking maybe it was something like, we say, oh, that's a ton of trouble. We actually mean 2,000 kilograms.
I'm not sure what the actual measurement is, but it loosely equates to
Loosely means a lot.
100 pounds, yeah. And so for the people of the day, again, comfort comes from it is done, and if you, and then you look what happens otherwise. So, don't worry. Don't worry, they'll get theirs. So don't worry about other people. Just cling to the cross. So again, very simple, right? Straightforward, easy. Symbolic hailstones and all. Any questions? Cool. Like I said, we're just making Revelation real boring. We want real hailstones, not symbolic ones. Ooh, but now we get the great prostitute, so there's some fun. All right, chapter 17. And from this point on through getting towards the end of Revelation, the focus is going to be, I mean, we're still going to be talking about what's happening now, but there is going to be kind of a focus on end stuff. But again, we've got this now and not yet. So even though something might be, and she will, the great prostitute is defeated, we know it happens here. It's fulfilled at the end. So we'll get there. But let us hope this works. Yay. All right. Chapter 17, verses 1 through 6. Then one of the 7 angels who had the 7 bowls came and said to me, "Come, I will show you the judgment of the great prostitute who is seated on many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed sexual immorality, and with the wine of whose sexual immorality the dwellers on earth have become drunk." And he carried me away in the spirit into a wilderness. And I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast that was full of blasphemous names, and it had 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and jewels and pearls, holding in her hand a golden cup full of abominations and the impurities of her sexual immorality. And on her forehead was written a name of mystery, Babylon the Great, mother of prostitutes and diverse abominations. And I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints, the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. When I saw her, I marveled greatly. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. I'm not going to draw her. I barely got a handle on frogs. I'm not going to draw the prostitute on the beast. It's going to take us way too much time. All right, so one of the 7 angels who had the 7 bowls came. So this is one of now we get a repeat angel. And, we've been talking about all these 7 angels, 7 angels, 7 angels. Likelihood they're all the same 7, right? I mean, it could be different series of them, but probably the same 7. But the cool thing about this is if they are the same 7 angels that have been recurring over and over and over and over again, then it has a nice connection with, at the very beginning, where it's talking about the angels of the 7 churches, which are either the pastors in charge of those churches or literal angels in charge of these churches, or not in charge, but watching over. If we draw a connection with all of them, then we have these angels who are watching over the churches, have been bringing this vision and now bring a vision of the judgment of the church's enemies. So the angels watching over the persecuted Christians are now giving them a vision of their vindication. So that's kind of nice. Are those exactly the 7 angels? We don't. Scripture doesn't tell us, but that works for me. So we got the great prostitute, or the harlot. All right, okay, we'll just draw her. There. Clearly, not as detailed as the frog. All right, she is seated on many waters, right? Many waters. All right, water, as we've gone through before, are places of turmoil and chaos. The first beast rises out of the waters. That first beast is civil authority, government, all that. Rises out of the turmoil and chaos of the world. Jeremiah 51 actually issues a prophecy against Babylon in which he says this: "Set up a standard against the walls of Babylon, make the watch strong, set up watchmen, prepare the ambushes. For the Lord has both planned and done what he spoke concerning the inhabitants of Babylon. O you who dwell by many waters, rich in treasures, your end has come. The thread of your life is cut." All right, and who is the prostitute but Babylon the Great, right? So, many waters. We have this nice little connection to Babylon. Although we're going to know what those waters are at the end of the chapter, but hold on. Okay, the kings of the earth have committed sexual immorality with her. I'm definitely not going to draw that. See, then we could charge for this series, and then we'd make the money, right? That would bring in there you go. All right, so sexual immorality, especially in Old Testament terms, we're talking about apostasy, heresy, idolatry. Israel, whenever Israel would go off after other gods, she was being an unfaithful harlot. She was being a unclean bride. She was making herself a whore among the nations. Okay, so that the kings of the earth are doing. Oh gosh. Heather has a comment. Lily wants to know what that means. Tell her mommy will explain it to her. Does anybody have a spare room I could stay tonight? We'll talk afterwards. Okay. So the prostitute herself kind of encompasses, we're just going to wrap it up in idolatry, okay? I mean, the prostitute just in general references idolatry in an Old Testament sense, or a scriptural sense. So she represents it, this idolatry, false religion, heresy, whatever. And all the kings of the earth are canoodling with her. So not only is she bringing it forth, but all the kings of the earth, all the leaders are joining with her in it. Kings, rulers, governments, whatever, get in bed with false religion. Religion is a wonderful tool for controlling people. If you're using a false, any kind of man-made religion, and we see this, over and over and over again. So they become drunk with the wine of her sexual immorality. So there's drunkenness going on. It's just horrible stuff. And they're carried into John is carried into the wilderness where he sees this. Why the wilderness? Well, that's where we are. We're in the wilderness, right? The people of God in the Old Testament were in the wilderness. We are in the wilderness of the world. When earlier in Revelation, when the dragon was going to eat the woman with child, they went out into the wilderness, and that's where the church is. So John is taken into the world, and he sees this woman sitting on a scarlet beast. All right, so scarlet, red, blood. Has 7 heads, 10 horns, blasphemous names. Where have we heard this before? Earlier in Revelation, this is the first beast. So again, civil authority. So this civil authority drenched in blood with the harlot, the great Babylon the Great, the harlot, the great prostitute is sitting on top of it. So even though the kings are trying to present their authority, who is sitting on top of them, but this great prostitute. She's dressed in purple and scarlet, which is, purple is royalty. Scarlet is either blood, or in Roman terms, purple and scarlet are the extravagance of the empire. These are very luxurious colors. So she drapes herself in the colors of the Roman Empire and the opulence of it all. She's got jewels and pearls, and she's displaying just a very luxurious, desirable thing, oh, see, if you follow her, look at this, looks great. Look at these dirty old Christians, they're these humble guys. They don't, sackcloth and ashes, you don't want that. You want this. So she, I put in my notes, I was kind of punchy earlier today, social media influencers. In so much as the whole shtick is to present a idealized, like, you want this. It has no basis in reality whatsoever. It's all for show. It's all presentation in order to attract. So basically, this is what is going on here. She's holding a cup filled with abominable things. So even so it's like, ooh, drink this. So she's enticing with wealth, enticing with food and wine that is horrible and abominable. Terrible stuff, right? There's a name of mystery on her forehead, Babylon the Great, which begs the question, how is it mystery if we know that her name is Babylon the Great? But the mystery is probably not in terms of the identity, because she's identified, but more of the mystery of, we have, like, usually always says, like, those who have a, wait, let me go back here. We don't have it there. I thought we did. Oh, anyway. Anytime there's a mystery, there's usually a call for those who have wisdom to understand. So the mystery here is kind of like, how can anybody see this and be fooled? You know, who is the only one who can see this for what it really is? Believers. The Christians, right? Because, well, it's revealed to them, for starters. But, you know, when the world looks at this, what do they see?
Something to be desired, probably.
Yeah, they see this and like, that's awesome. I want that. Yeah, we'll follow that. We'll go after that. That looks great. Besides, all the kings are there anyway. All of our leaders, all of our authorities are there. So yes, bring us more of that. So the mystery for the world is they don't know this. They don't understand who this is and why. We do. We understand this. And John marvels greatly at it, which is probably not marveling in a good way. He's probably not like, ooh, well. I'd be surprised if he was, but marveling probably in a sense that he can't really even comprehend what's going on. Like, if he's seeing like all the kings going after her in the nations, it's kind of like, what are you? How? Why? Don't you see? She's got the cup. So just kind of marveling at the stupidity of people, which I get that. I do that a lot. So, yeah. Any comments, questions about the great prostitute? Okay. All right, then moving along to, there we go. Verses 7 through 14. But the angel said to me, why do you marvel? I will tell you the mystery of the woman and of the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns that carries her. The beast that you saw was and is not and is about to rise from the bottomless pit and go to destruction. And the dwellers on earth whose names have not been written in the book of life from the foundation of the world will marvel to see the beast, because it was and is not and is to come. This calls for, oh, here we go. I was ahead of my time. This calls for a mind with wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman is seated. They are also 7 kings, 5 of whom have fallen. One is, the other has not yet come. And when he does come, he must remain only for a little while. As for the beast that was and is not, it is an 8th, but belongs to the 7, and it goes to destruction. And the 10 horns that you saw are 10 kings who have not yet received royal power, but they are to receive authority as kings for 1 hour together with the beast. These are of one mind, and they hand over their power and authority to the beast. They will make war on the Lamb, and the Lamb will conquer them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and those with him are called and chosen and faithful. Okay, so back to our whole, like, is this literal or symbolic? Because when we start getting to, and these are kings and rulers and that, people, theologians for centuries have been like, this is who they are. And they write, and this, it must be this ruler, and this, is this emperor? Like, okay, well, again, we have a problem with that one, especially when we get to, they received authority as kings for 1 hour. Right?
Sounds like the last of history.
So, yeah, it's like, boom, and it's done. So, and usually people say, well, it's not 1 hour. You got to take that symbolically. It's like, oh, my God. You can't just, anyway. So, the beasts. So we have a lot of decoding this stuff. It's really not that complex. Was and is not and is about to. So, it was, so it was here. Well, okay, the beast, again, who was the beast represent? Civil authority, government, all that good stuff, all the ways that the devil will use civil authority to further his goals. So government is there, then it's not, then it's back again. This happens every 4 years here. Well, even actually probably every other day now. You never know what our government is up to or what it's doing, or if we even have one. It's just all a mess. So it's just talking about, so the beast, civil authority, government, the power that Satan uses to corrupt these things. Governments come and go. Rulers come and go. Nations come and go. It's always in flux. It's always just all over the place, which is, we see this. About to rise from the pit and go to destruction. So the fantastic image here is that, okay, so Satan is using his power, and he's like, all right, beast, now go up and wreak havoc, and he's only going up to his destruction. So Satan's plan is, I'm going to go up there and kick butt and take names. But the reality is, because of this, Christ has already won, right? So again, comfort and peace. So even though it looks like Satan is ramping up, that he's sending this government out to get you, your hope is here. Don't worry. Just stay focused. The dwellers whose names are not written in the book of life, so the unbelievers, they see this and they're like, ooh, cool, this is awesome. Okay, they're enthralled by, the possibility or the idea of, what's it? The government will save us. And it's like, hi, I'm from the government. I'm here to help, right? And we know that's not true. And yet a lot of people believe that. So there you go. 7 heads. So it has 7 heads. The 7 heads are the 7 mountains on which the woman is seated. This is actually very simple. Rome was well known as the city of 7 hills. And mountains, hills, same thing. So Rome was the city of 7 hills. Poetry back then said it. Theologians referred to it as that. So this beast, which if you go back, so Babylon the Great, the enemies of God, is riding on the beast, Rome, who is the current oppressor of God's people in that time. So this is just enemies of God, right? We're not going to get tied up and say, oh, it's Rome, because if it's Rome specifically and exactly, then this has no point for us whatsoever. Because I don't think Rome is is a great superpower right now that we really have to worry about. Good food, though. No, it just represents the enemies of God, just like Babylon represents the enemies of God. So in general, saying the beast is whatever civil authority at the time Satan is corrupting in order to afflict the people. That's all it means. What's that? Yeah, he's very good at that. All right, 7 heads. Also, 7 kings. Okay, +1. It's actually 7 kings +1. Like I said, we can try to this one's Nero and this one's whatever. Nobody has the same list. There were obviously more than 7 emperors. Some people try to say, this was an ancient king and this wasn't this ancient king, blah, blah, blah. Maybe, just maybe, it's not specific, it's not literal, but it's symbolic. Well, how many rulers are we talking about? 7. Significant number. Now, when referring to God, it represents the completeness of his work, right? 7 days of creation. Well, that's with God. If this is a earthly, or we're talking about the world, because 7 days of creation, the world. So maybe we're just talking about, the totality of the earthly rulers who claim authority over all things in opposition to God. Seems reasonable. Seems like that would actually be a message that talks to all people of all time. 10 horns, again, 10 kings who have not yet received royal power. So he's like, yes, this beast that you guys know is Rome right now. And you know what? If you think this is bad now, there are 10 guys who you don't even know yet. This is always going to be an issue until Jesus comes back. Fight the power. Government bad. That's where I always go with it. So anyway, they've not received power. They receive it for 1 hour. Again, literally, that's silly. But that's, nestled in there a little nugget of hope. So these kings are going to take power, but it's just for a little bit of time. Nobody lasts forever. Only Jesus. They make war on the Lamb, but what happens? The Lamb conquers. The Lamb wins. The Lamb defeats. He is Lord of Lords and King of Kings. So, all of that, all this fantastic description of the heads and this and that and then and dragon, and the horror and oh gosh, is basically saying, and yes, when you look out into the world, it's going to look like the world is going to hell in a handbasket. What does the world look like today? Well, it's not going, it's there, right? That's exactly what they saw back then. It's exactly what we saw. Guess what? It's going to be what our children see, and our grandchildren, and our great-grandchildren. So through it all, he's saying, like, this is what it's going to look like. But, and they're going to come, and it looks like they're making war, and they're powerful. But the Lamb has conquered. Boom, 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 boom. Cross, 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 cross. Over and over and over again. Always comes back to this. Jesus has won the day. Jesus has won the day. Same old message. Same old thing. And we're right on time here because we just got one more little bit, a few verses here, verses 15 through 18. And the angel said to me, the waters that you saw, here we go, where the prostitute is seated are peoples and multitudes and nations and languages. And the 10 horns that you saw, they and the beast will hate the prostitute. They will make her desolate and naked and devour her flesh and burn her up with fire. For God has put it into their hearts to carry out his purpose by being of one mind and handing over their royal power to the beast until the words of God are fulfilled. And the woman that you saw is the great city that has dominion over the kings of the earth. Okay, so the many waters not only refers to Babylon and all that, but they are people. All people of every land and nation. So we see that who does the prostitute afflict? Everybody. She is sitting on top of everybody. All right, and then what happens? The beast turns against the prostitute. So what happens is it just... now the horns, not the heads, though. Notice the horns turn, but the heads don't. So we see that there's not even it's not like a total complete like, oh, now the beast is, hey, yay, beast. No, it's still bad. But what God is doing is he's creating internal strife and chaos amongst the devil and his schemes. So it's great because the devil comes up and he's like, oh, I'm going to throw chaos into the world. And what does God says? Like, okay, I can play that too. And he spreads chaos into the devil and his schemes. So God is actually going to use the beast, one of Satan's powers, against himself. And this is, God is always using it. I mean, he uses all sorts of stuff. Israel, the people of Judah going off into exile to Babylon. God used Babylon. Babylon was not nice people. They were pagans, unbelievers. God used them to be judgment. God used Cyrus of Persia to be the deliverer of the people of Judah, to give them back from Babylon. So God is always doing this kind of thing where he will use, he uses everything in order to further his plan to call us to repentance. So he uses even the devil's schemes against himself. So it's just kind of a cool thing that, and again, talking to the people. Lily says my cross looks like the communion wafers. It does. Yes. Take and eat. All right. So again, comfort for the people of God to say that not only is the victory is won, but God himself is in control. He is thwarting the forces of Satan throughout this whole thing. He is causing internal strife. And I mean, good Lord, we see, in the civil realm, I'm thinking there's two forces in our own government who are bitterly opposed to each other that are causing chaos and turmoil for each other and just eating each other alive. I won't name names. But it sounds like Republicans and Democrats.
Come on. Go ahead.
And I mean, it's not
Don't be shy.
it's not political parties. I mean, it's everybody. You pick. I mean, how many people do we have working in government? That's how many people you have against each other, because people in their own parties can't even get along and figure this stuff out. But I mean, we just see this over and over and over again, that there's just internal strife and chaos that just tears things apart. And if you want to get a contemporary example for the people back then, what would happen to Rome? Well, what happened to Rome eventually? It fell. Why? Oh, okay.
It was beheaded.
That was a terrible. In 30 seconds, explain the fall of the Roman Empire to me. Totally easy, right?
The actual final battle was, it was betrayed by people that trusted from the north, that it embraced too close to the home fires, and they
Well,
and slew them all.
but yeah, but if you follow kind of the downfall, so maybe. If you back up and look at kind of the slide, what was kind of the breakdown was not so much necessarily internal like Rome and that, but as they expanded, well, now you've got all these principalities and other rulers who are under Rome. Well, what are they doing? They're like, wait a second.
Why are we listening to them?
Yeah, what? Let's do our own thing. And Rome's like, oh, we need to clamp down on this. And then something starts over here. And like, oh, no. And so they're busy trying to put out fires all the time. And meanwhile, the whole thing is like, woof. So the contemporary example of that is Rome. I mean, you look at what's happening right now in Eastern Europe. Same thing's happening. America, I'm sure someday. Europe. I mean, everywhere. It's going to happen. I mean, it's happened. This is what happens. You're silly to think, oh, that can't happen here. Well, ask the people of Ukraine. Go back 6 months ago and ask them, can this happen? It's tragic, but it's like this is what's going on. But God is going to, He's going to use that to, somehow. And if anything, what it does is say like, we can't even understand how God would use this stuff. Like, why would you use that? Why would you use the beast to attack it, God? It's like, I've beaten it for you. I have purpose. I'm in control of all of this. You probably don't understand it. I mean, good Lord, look at the devil frog. But I've conquered the day for you. You are safe and secure. Always comes back to that. So, questions?
In the middle of it all, we have this piece that doesn't make any sense, that makes the most sense.
Yeah, oh, exactly. Well, what do I say after every sermon? The peace that surpasses all our understanding. Yeah, this, we see all this, and the message of Revelation is, be at peace.
Shoot, that could be today.
And it doesn't make any sense, on an intellectual level, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. How can we have peace when an event that happened 2,000 years ago, what's that?
When all that's
Yeah, when all this is happening, and you're telling me to look back to something that happened 2,000 years ago, forward to a day that I'm probably not going to be alive for, intellectually speaking, that's like, well, okay. But in faith, we get the connection. In faith, we actually see the peace. We know the peace. We have the peace because we are brought to this. The cool thing about faith is that it takes us, the Holy Spirit takes everything of this forward into our heart, which then connects us all the way forward to the last day. So we live in the cross, we live in the now, we live in the not yet. We're cool like that. Any other comments, questions? Thank you, everybody online, for bearing with me through all my technical glitches. All right, cool.
Actually, pretty good. That's pretty good. I like I can recognize the beast as the horned one. And,
Well, hey, I just write what's in Revelation, man.
what?
This is what John saw.
John saw the witch hat?
Oh yeah, he saw the whole thing. This
Interesting.
is exactly how it looked.
The magic frog, the spirit of the magic,
It's one of those, may God strike me down if he didn't.
a horny toad. Don't kiss a toad. I'm telling you, it's not good.
All right. Well, yes, there. Thank you. You're welcome, June. All right. Well, we will pick it up next week then with more of the downfall of all this stuff, and we're actually getting towards the end. We're getting close to wrapping up, and we got maybe 4 or 5, maybe something like that. All right. Well, thank you all for being here, and hopefully I can.
How close are we to the end of the Revelation?
Probably about 4 or 5 weeks, maybe.
4 or 5 more weeks?
I think.
Well,
Yeah.
it's a lot of his vision. He had a lot to say. He had a
Oh, yeah, well,
long-
yeah, I'm on page 89 of my leader guide, so,
He had a long dream.
yes. All right, well, thank you, everybody online, and we'll see you next week.